You know, if you look back at the history of pro hockey from the 1970s, this guy holds a very unique position. Not only did he win an NCAA title, not only was he one of the few Missouri-born people to play in the NHL, even though he grew up in Minnesota. He starred in an award-winning movie, made the NHL, played in the minors with a plethora of former, current, and future NHLers that also included Olympians and a whole wide range of prospects of all age groups, and had their own path in hockey that was very successful. Now, we got a double request for this podcast because of the John Baby podcast. Of course, that's the great major junior prospect that came in the NHL, who had a hockey card with the Nordiques, even though he didn't play a regular season game with them. But he was not say a line mate, but he was I don't know if they played on a defensive pairing together. I wouldn't be surprised. So today we're going to be talking about the very talented and the very interesting career of Jim Boo. Now, James McQuaid Boo, born November 12, 1954 in Rolla, Missouri, was raised in Matomedi, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Matomedi, Minnesota. Now, 6'1", 200 pounds, big drink of water, wasn't scared to take a penalty or stand up for the weaker players on his team. Came to a major prominence at a very, very early age. He had played, if I'm not mistaken, in one of the Minnesota's elite junior leagues, which was comparable to Tier 2. I don't know if there was a Tier 2 or considered major junior, but the St. Paul Vulcans was a very respected squad. Now, he played, according to Internet Hockey Database, he played with them in 74. Then he found himself in the Herb Brooks program. The great Herb Brooks, our late and great Team USA and NCAA coach with the University of Minnesota. Now, 1976 was a big year for hockey in the States. They did well at the Olympics, but Herb Brooks' team that year won the NCAA crown with probably one of the most well-balanced squads in the history of University of Minnesota. He went 23-14-1 that year with a wide range of, again, future Team USA and pro stars. Now, on that squad, of course, Warren Miller was there, Tom Younghands, the big killer of Montreal in the 80 playoffs, the great Reed Larson, who was featured on the podcast before, Joe Micheletti, Bill Baker, the former Olympian, the former Montreal Canadian. You had Russ Anderson as well, and Steve Janicek, who of course played with Team USA in the program 79-80 leading up to the Olympics. Now, over those 3 seasons, University of Minnesota, he had 1 assist in 19 regular season games, 76. Second season, he had 12 points in 37 games, including 2 goals, with 66 minutes in penalties. I see a trend. 78, his last year with University of Minnesota, 21 points in 37 games, including 63 minutes and penalties, 4 goals. Now, 78, again, was a very busy year for him. He put in time with the Fort Wayne Texans and also played with them in the playoffs. 9 games with the Texans regular season, 2 assists, 70 minutes and penalties, 9 playoff games, 1 assist, and 23 minutes and penalties. Now, he had signed a free agent contract with Minnesota and made the big club's roster for 6 games. No points, 22 minutes and penalties, -6. But a very interesting path to the NHL. Now, after making, not say making Minnesota, but playing with the North Stars that season, he found himself with one of the better CHL teams of the era and one of the most popular, the Oklahoma City Stars. For 2 seasons, in 1979-1980, he put in 125 games with nearly 300 minutes and penalties. 38 points over those 2 seasons combined with 5 goals. And again, not scared to take a penalty or protect some of the smaller players on the team. Now, when I say he's linked to a lot of top players, let's look just at that roster in '79. That team had Mike Eaves, Bill Hogaboom, very underrated player. Chuck Arneson, Montreal prospect a lot of years. Jimmy Roberts was there. John Beatty, we had talked about before. The former Toronto Star, Jim McKinney. Alex Pyrus. Don Jackson, again, a strong player. Rick Josio, Tardif's attacker. Les Auger, very underrated. Mike Fiddler. Jean Pavin. Ted Hampson, who played forever. Chris Maneri, who played forever. Steve Payne, of course, the big star for the Stars in the 80s. Mike Polish, the former Hab. Ronnie Zanussi, Pete LaPresti, Brad Maxwell, Warren Young, and Mike Debble. So a very interesting group of teammates in Notre Dame and in the minors and with the Stars. Now, what was interesting about Jim, a lot of people, although I'm not sure if there was a print article of this, there probably was, but he did an event in 2016 in something called the Stillwater Festival. Now, I'm quoting from Jackie Bush-Jaeger, who was a staff writer for the PressPubs.com, and talks about something called the first ever Sticks and Stillwater Mite Hockey Tournament. And it was located, I guess, at the St. Croix Valley Rec Center on Market Drive in Stillwater. This included outdoor festival, food, music, and evening events, and they had about 50 teams, similar to see the major tournaments in Canada. But what was interesting as well, interesting article, if you can find it, just do a Jim Boo search. There's a photo that was posted with the story of two handsome men. On the right-hand side, you can see Jim Boo, but the guy on the left might be familiar. It's Paul Newman. And at the time, Jim was an extra playing for the President's squad, which I think was part of a plot where one of the President's players was quite drunk, and I think Michael Onkeen hit him in the corner, and he fell down. So in that 10-year period, he played with about 150 NHL players or Team USA players. He won an NCAA title under Herb Brooks. He eventually became a volunteer for Herb Brooks Foundation. He was in a movie Slapshot. Again, he was part of the Minnesota Stars, what he called reclamation years, because he almost folded in '78 before the merge with Cleveland. We talked about this week. So what a life in hockey. Now, I called him on the phone. He's a real estate guru now. That's what I've been told. He didn't tell that to me, but I'm saying it. When his hockey career ended, he began working in real estate industry. He formed his own company called Team Boo Realty with his wife Tracy. Now, Boo is also involved with something called High Point Realty, another Minnesota-based real estate firm, and other endeavors. I see by his Facebook he's into recycling. Now, at a chance, like every journalist wants to back up facts, and I had to call him. Just short notice, just to double check with the University of Minnesota details, just to make sure it was the Reed Larson years, because you know how much Reed Larson is popular on our channel. Jim was a very genial on the phone, because people in Minnesota and Canada, we kind of speak the same language. So thank you, Mr. Boo, for taking time and confirming what we already knew. You had a great career in hockey. I know 4 decades ago went fast, but players like Jim, boys, you needed those big 200-pound, 6 feet defensemen. Because, you know, in the NHL, Minnesota and Boston had a big rivalry. Minnesota had an ongoing rivalry with a lot of the West Coast squads because of the expansion 12. But Jim Boo was part of that Herb Brooks legacy, part of the Team USA legacy with the players he played with, the Minnesota North Stars. But to play for a team that went from almost folding to be the Stanley Cup final within 5 years, that's just a tremendous legacy. So Mr. Boo and the other players he played with, in the Stars and the different players, and Gary Smith played on a couple of those Stars teams in Oklahoma City. It's just a tremendous era for hockey for the Minnesota North Stars. So this is our latest and our kind of vintage 1970s Sports File podcast. If you know players similar to Jim Boo, you like features here, make sure we continue to like, comment, or subscribe. We passed 307,000 hits on the channel. Amazing, with no monetization, no promotion besides word of mouth. Thank you to listeners. Thank you to Jim Boo. Thank you to the alumni of Herb Brooks, the alumni of North Stars. And in 1971, ladies and gentlemen, when he almost bet the Habs in the playoffs, took him to 6, almost scored a tying goal in Game 6 before it was called back because of the end-of-game buzzer. Within so many years, they almost folded. the Minnesota needs Major League Hockey. We'd only moved to Dallas, got the Wild back. But every time Minnesota comes up, we remember what I call the old North Stars, and he's part of that legacy. And and it's so funny in New Brunswick, the Carleton North high school team has a logo similar to the Stars in blue, and the Condors up North Shore have the North Stars colors. So they've influenced a lot of people in the province. So thanks for listening, ladies and gentlemen. Game 2 of the Islanders Tampa Bay series tonight. Of course, Vegas won last night 4-1. Typical bad performance by a Montreal team in an opening of a series. But like I said, it's 7 games. It's not 5 games. Not like the old days. Take care of yourself. Keep your stick in the ice. Bye.